LinkedIn is one of Joe and I's favorite ad channels, and because of that, we put together quite a few videos on this channel about it. And because of that, we get a lot of people reaching out to us to audit their LinkedIn ads campaigns. And after a lot of audits of low-performing LinkedIn ads campaigns, we found a handful of common mistakes that almost everybody makes, at least one or two of them. So in this video, we want to talk about the 5 most common mistakes that we see with LinkedIn ads that causes underperformance in your campaigns. Now, normally when we go through a video that's highlighting some of the problems that we see in campaigns, I would like to show you campaigns that actually have those problems. But here's the issue. Currently, all of the LinkedIn ads accounts that we're managing are set up the way they need to be. So there's not actually the same problems in here, but we are going to walk through the way that things should look. I'm just going to talk through the type of problems that we normally see. So if you're looking at the campaigns on the screen, the way they're set up, and you think, that looks right, that's because they are right, because we're actively managing them, but I will be talking about what the common problems are that we see with the campaigns. And again, because we're using a live client account, we will have to have some things blurred out, but for the most part, you'll be able to see what's going on. The easiest way to highlight the types of problems that we're seeing is just to go through the campaign edit process so that we can see how you would set it up, and I'll talk about what we usually find. Doesn't matter which campaign, let's just start with this one on top. For the most part, I'd say people get their campaign objectives pretty accurate. They know if they need a website visit or website conversions or video views. Most of those are usually pretty accurate. The first problem comes in, we start looking at the target audience. The location's not normally an issue. Same with language. Instead, let's scroll down a little bit further and look at who is being targeted specifically. Now in this campaign, as you can see off to the right, we have 470,000 users being targeted in this campaign. For the average account, I'm going to say that's too high. LinkedIn Ads says that the minimum audience size for a sponsored content campaign should be 300,000. And I'm going to guess that for the vast majority of you, that audience is quite a bit too big and you wouldn't have the budget to actually permeate that audience very well. So although this audience size is a little bit larger, what I would probably have you stick to is anything between 30,000 to 100,000 users. But if your target audience on LinkedIn really is just maybe 5,000 users, that's okay. You just need to kind of downscale your budget to make sure you don't oversaturate them too quickly. But aside from the size of the audience, one of the biggest issues we see is that we're just not targeting the right people. In this campaign, we have a ton of job titles or we have a third-party contact list. So we know all of those people are going to be in the right type of group. But even on top of that, we say that they have to be in these handful of industries. Typically when we see audiences not performing well for different campaigns, what's happened is they've selected one type of targeting, likely just job titles, and gone after those. Now, job titles aren't bad. Obviously, we like to use them for our campaigns, but they are the most expensive on the LinkedIn platform. And if you read through some of these job titles, you'll see that some are pretty specific to, obviously, the healthcare space, based on the industries we're going after, like Patient Financial Services Specialist. But the first job title on the list is Revenue Officer. That could be for anybody. So the common mistake here is not layering in any of the "and" types of rules into your audience building, not narrowing down based on who you should be targeting, and inherently excluding people who aren't the right fit. And one easy way to check that is to use these segment breakdowns over here on the right-hand side. Even though we're not targeting job function, you can see that healthcare services is 53%, we've got business development, accounting, finance, consulting. Those are all probably the right types of functions for this group. But this is a great thing for you to audit to make sure that you're finding the right people. Now, another section, you can come down and look at either seniority, years of experience, which I would have a pretty big grain of salt with, the company size, industries, and interests of the users here. So if you're only able to do business with companies that are 10,000 employees plus, any of these other ones are just added impressions, potential costs, and they're not actually going to drive you anything. So you then need to make sure that you're targeting only that type of company size. And the last piece for this type of targeting, I apologize, we're going to have to blur these out because all of these are competitors of our client. We've added an exclusion for anybody who works at the companies that are competing for the same types of customers. This is a big red flag if you're not excluding at least some of your competitors, at least in my mind. 1, it's a waste of money. You're not going to convert your competitors. But 2, you're giving them your ad strategy by showing them impressions of your ads, what your call to action is, what your creative looks like, what your messaging is, all that stuff. If they want to find your ads and take a look at that stuff, make them do the work on their own and do the competitor research. Don't just hand it to them. Now, if you're running a campaign and it seems like all of your targeting should be accurate, one thing you can do to check is to head back into the Campaigns tab. If we then check the box next to the campaign that we want to look at, come up here to Professional Demographics. You can open this up and you will be able to see the impressions, lead gen forms, lead form opens, and leads generated by different job functions, job title, company, job seniority, location, all these things. You can also adjust the columns so you can see leads or just performance in general. Maybe you want to know who's clicking on your ads. This is a great way to double check that you are reaching exactly the right people with your campaign. And if you find something in here that's not the right fit, add it as an exclusion or layer in a new targeting that includes only the additional targeting that makes sense for you. Back in the campaign builder, I'm going to talk about one more thing with audience that I personally classify as a completely different mistake people make. And that is when people have opted into enable audience expansion. What audience expansion does is it tells LinkedIn that it's able to reach users outside of your target audience that it thinks are similar to your users based on attributes like job title, company, or skills. Now, while that sounds good, it sounds like it would be really targeted, in my experience, it's pretty terrible. For this specific account, our audience is already 470,000 people. That's plenty. But even if your audience is small, you probably selected that audience for a reason, and 99 times out of 100, enabling audience expansion just does not work. So this is a red flag to me. Automatically uncheck that. That's why it's an entire mistake unto itself, because it's just a categorical no from me. And if we keep scrolling down, let's go past ad format. Now I want to head into placements. Now this campaign specifically is a problem, but this entire account is running lead gen forms with either single image or document ads. But if you're running any sort of single image ad, carousel, text ad, anything where a conversion action takes place not in a lead gen form, in the placement section, you can change this and opt into LinkedIn's audience network. And that is trusted third-party publishers where LinkedIn can publish ads that are meant to target the exact same users that you would be targeting on LinkedIn, just elsewhere. But just like audience expansion, in my experience, those placements are pretty crappy. You're probably not getting a good visual on your actual ad. And most of the time, the LinkedIn audience network just runs up impressions, runs up costs, and just does not convert. Again, for me, this is a categorical no. I have seen it perform well once or twice, but for the most part, just turn LinkedIn Audience Network off. If you're currently running LinkedIn ads campaigns and your performance looks bad, check and make sure you're not opted into the LinkedIn Audience Network. That could be your problem. And now real quick, let me show you how to check performance on that. Back in the Campaigns tab, head up to Breakdown, select On-Off Network. And although this uncategorized section is a bit new to me, doesn't look like it's driving up spend at all for this account, so it's going to be okay. But if you were running ads on the LinkedIn network, you would see on LinkedIn, and then the second line item would say LinkedIn Audience Network. You'd then be able to break down performance by spend, cost per result, impressions, all of the different metrics that are here. And that way you can check, one, if your ads are running on the audience network, and two, if they are, what the performance is, and then probably step 3, go and turn it off once you find that the performance is bad. Now for the last mistake we're going to look at within the campaigns builder here, and that is going to be around your bid strategy and then a little bit about the budget. So first, again, this campaign is set up the way we want it. Manual bidding is already opted into, where you get to choose your bid. They don't bid any higher than that. And as you can see down here, LinkedIn recommends a bid of $18.37, but we are at $8, and we are doing pretty darn good volume-wise with $8. If you're not seeing good performance from your campaigns, odds are you're using the max delivery system, and that just is going to drive up your cost per click, lower your click-through rate, and you just do not normally see good performance with that. Instead, you will have to open up this show additional options piece, which is very dumb, but then you can opt in here, change the bid, likely starting with something really low, and then as you see performance come in, start to raise the bid to get a little bit more volume. If you want a little bit more about bidding strategies, we do have another video that covers those. You can check that out at the top of the screen right now. Now, I did say a little bit about budget, and I do mean a little bit. There are 3 types of budget you can use on LinkedIn, whether it's a lifetime budget, daily budget, or setting both. I personally don't have a problem with whichever one you use. Each has their strengths and benefits. My biggest issue is when you have a budget that cannot support the actual calls to action and the unit metrics associated with those. Meaning, if you're trying to run a lead generation campaign for content downloads, and your target cost per acquisition for that is $50, but your daily budget is $10, that's not a good use of the LinkedIn platform, in my opinion. You might be able to get away with it, but it's going to take you a long time to see performance, and it's going to be really hard to actually optimize. Instead, I would rather you change your call to action a little bit, or wait until you've got some more budget. Maybe pool things together, make a bigger impact rather than just eking away a little bit, $10 every day. And that brings me to the last mistake that we typically see with LinkedIn ads campaigns, and that's focusing too far down the buyer funnel. We all know that we want more customers, and most, at least SaaS companies, really want demo requests. But odds are, depending on your industry, you have something that's similar to a demo request. Think of the big ask conversion action right before you try to get somebody to convert to a customer. Slot that in for demo, and if you're using that for your call to action, you're probably making a mistake. More often than not, when we see campaigns not performing and everything else is set up properly, it's because you're asking for too much at this conversion stage. The better strategy, unfortunately, is to target people a little further up the funnel, get them to come to your website or download some content, maybe exchange a little bit of information, and work their way into your nurture flow, where you can not only re-engage with them through retargeting campaigns, sometimes on LinkedIn, you can also target them on other platforms like Google Ads and Facebook that are a lot cheaper, and cheaper yet, they can be part of your email nurture sequence. You're already paying for that software, why not use it? For whatever reason, LinkedIn just isn't a good channel for bottom of funnel calls to action without any sort of nurture ahead of time. So if all the other things that you're seeing are looking pretty good, but you're not seeing conversions, that could be a good reason why. Overall, those are the 5 main areas that we see as problems in almost every LinkedIn ads account that we audit. People have poor audience selection the first time around, and they don't know why, or they're enabling the audience network, and then that's pretty clearly LinkedIn's fault as to why they're not seeing good performance. They're leaving the audience network on, which is just driving up higher impressions, more cost, likely almost no conversions, and then they're letting LinkedIn do the bidding for them rather than taking a much more calculated approach, being more conservative to start, and only scaling once they're ready to go. And then lastly, getting a bit too greedy. Using the bottom of funnel call to action as your first conversion touch point on LinkedIn simply does not work, so you're going to have to shift it further up the funnel if you want to see better performance. And that's it for the common mistakes we see on LinkedIn ads. Hopefully this rundown has given you a little more confidence to audit your own campaigns, try and figure out what's going wrong. But if you have any additional questions about troubleshooting poor performing LinkedIn ads campaigns or anything else on the LinkedIn platform, let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching our video. We really appreciate it. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up below. If you really liked it, maybe think about subscribing to the Paid Media Pros YouTube channel and you'll get alerted every time a new video drops.
If you really liked it, you can help support the channel by checking out some of the t-shirts that we're wearing on our merch shelf, as well as looking at the Super Thanks button.